okay? So we are starting a new... Okay, good. Sorry. Okay, so today we're going to talk about conflict resolution, okay? We get asked about this all the time, and this is actually one of the topics that takes you through all the stages. So at home, okay, we're kind of in the middle of a organizational restructure of our church, okay? We're in that like transition period where we're going from a small church to a big church, okay? I would actually argue that that transition happened many years ago, but we're just late to the game, okay? And we're restructuring our services along a continuum, okay? So I serve the relational ministries that are the continuum of like relationship goals is the beginning of it, and then that should feed into premarital. Premarital should feed into the marriage ministry. The marriage ministry feeds into the parenting ministry, okay? Sound familiar? SMSV was the OG, just throwing it out there, okay? Whatever, okay? I'm loyal to a T, I'm red, okay? So I serve like that relational ministry, so we serve like all those groups, okay? I would say that conflict resolution is one of the ones that like are cross-sectional across all of them, okay? Call me when I'm fighting with my 3-year-old, bam, conflict resolution, okay? In relationship goals, conflict resolution. Premarital, she wants the expensive flowers, he doesn't, conflict resolution, okay? Marriage, conflict resolution. So this is, I'm testing it out on you guys, not actually for relationship goals, for a different service in the continuum, okay? So you guys, you gotta tell me like what we're gonna do. So this is the agenda of what we're gonna cover today, okay? Woo, it's not switching. I was wondering why nobody was laughing at my meme. Oh, sorry, I'm switching mine. Okay, I was wondering why nobody was laughing at my meme, right? It's hilarious. I'm like, guys, this is a tough crowd. Huh? There we go. That's what it is. Thank you. Mystery solved. I was like, wow, that's a really tough crowd. Okay. All right. So today, what we're going to talk about is this, okay? Why we fight, the different types of conflict, the conflict styles, how you fight wrong, and how you fight right, okay? We talked a little bit about this in the last one, okay, and yesterday, about this concept of fighting productively, okay? I don't care how often you fight, but I care what happens after you fight. Are you worse off or are you better off? Okay? So, as always, I know I've beat this to death, okay, this weekend, but we start with the baseline understanding of marriage as a path to salvation. It's not there to make you feel better about yourself. It's not there to inflate your ego. It's not there to make you happy. Nobody cares about your happiness, okay? Marriage is a path to salvation. You are yoked to somebody who, when you are empty, they help you refill, okay? When your focus is shifting, they uplift you, okay? They teach you how to empty yourself of your selfish desires, deprioritize yourself in service of another person so that you are more open to being filled by him and modeling him and loving sacrificially the way he loves sacrificially, okay? That is marriage, okay? Premise. Okay, sorry, I have 2 iPads here. Now, conflict resolution, okay? This is gonna be kind of like the overarching theme around the conflict resolution. If it is possible, as much as depends on you, live peaceably with all men. I just want to deconstruct that for a second, okay, to make sure that we're all on the same page of understanding. Number 1 is if it is possible, okay? That if it is possible tells you there will be conflict. There will be. Okay? If it's possible to live peaceably, I want you to. But sometimes it's not going to be possible to live peaceably. Okay? And so for the duration of this talk, we're talking about reconciliation, not resolution. Okay? I'm not saying that your problem is going to go away. I'm not saying that you're going to come up with a solution to your problem, because maybe your problem doesn't have a solution. Okay? But we're talking about reconciliation, not resolution. And we know that conflict is inevitable. There will be no conflict. There will always be conflict, okay? The second part is as much as depends on you. This also means the conflict might not resolve. Maybe I'm amazing and I'm perfect and I'm modeling Christ and this person's crazy and the conflict's not resolved. But as much as depends on you, live peaceably with all men. What does that mean? That means that you being mad is not just your problem, it's our problem. Because there's a portion that depends on me in that situation. And the part that I own, the part that I carry, the accountability that I carry, as much as depends on me, I'm gonna live peaceably, okay? In the Beatitudes, okay, he says, blessed are the peacemakers, okay? Not the peace wanters, okay? Not the peace desirers, the peace hopers, okay? The peacemakers. The people who know that as much as depends on me, I'm going to pursue peace. As much as depends on me, as much as my role and my accountability in this lies, I'm going to pursue peace, okay? But it doesn't mean that every conflict will be resolved, okay? Sounds so optimistic for the married people, right? So optimistic. Okay, so let's talk about why do we fight, okay? Conflict is typically a reflection or a manifestation of who we are and what we believe, and who our partners are and what they believe. That mismatch in ideas or whatever prompted the conflict is a reflection of who you are, and it's how you learn the other person. You learn what they believe in. You learn what their priorities are. You learn what their baggage is, if they've had an emotional response to something that seems like not a big deal to you. That's how you learn them. It's the path to understanding, okay? So, like, we have a whole series at home about, like, the love story between St. Peter and Christ, right? And how, like, it's probably one of my favorite series to give. It walks you through, like, the stages, and we actually take some of the relationship goal slides, and we, like, model out, like, the progression of their relationship, like, oh, Christ is, like, trying to get his attention, like, whatever, all that kind of stuff, like, do you know what I mean? And we, like, the third talk maybe, or the fourth talk in the series is, bam, conflict between Christ and St. Peter. Get thee behind me, Satan! Okay, like, the conflict, okay? But the beauty of their conflict in their relationship is that conflict is a bid for connection. Conflict took their relationship and strengthened it and made it stronger. And look who St. Peter was to the church. I'm biased, right? Because he's my top 4, easily, okay? I love him. I love his crazy. I love everything about it, okay? But look at who he was to the church. And in that talk, one of the things we talk about is, like, look at the peak of their conflict and then look what came next. And what came next is, like, the peak of their relationship. Because conflict can be a bid for connection. It can be the path to peace, the path to understanding if we do it right. All the time in the dating, like, service, like in relationship goals, I get asked, like, what's the red flag? What's the threshold for which we're fighting too much and now we gotta call it because, like, this ain't healthy, okay? So I'm reading, like, a series of books by, like a clinical psychologist, is that what he is? Clinical psychologist, who, like, non-Christian, but super, super interesting, okay? And I'm gonna reference it quite a few times in this talk, okay? Super interesting, John and Julie Gottman. I'm not sure if anybody's ever heard of them, okay? They're like a Jewish couple, they run a bunch of, like, clinical trials and labs and stuff like that. Super, super interesting. And all their ideologies in their book are secular, okay? But he kind of, like, advertises it as, like, novel ideas, okay? But you know what's really funny? They all exist in the Bible, Habibi. You're not reinventing the wheel. You're just not acknowledging where it came from before you, okay? So in this study, okay, they looked at, like, the prognostic indication of couples that fight a lot or had a lot of conflict, right? Because our instinct is to say, like, oh, people that fight a lot are gonna get divorced, or people that fight a lot are gonna break up, because too much fighting is bad. Fighting is bad, fighting is bad, fighting is bad. And actually, their data showed the opposite. That couples that had higher conflict, like at the inception of their marriage, survived better than the couples that had low conflict. And their hypothesis as to why was that, you know, clearly the partners had, like, emotional safety. They felt secure enough to be able to, like, bring up issues, whereas the low conflict couples were associated with, like, suppressed needs and bad communication and feeling unsafe to talk about these things. And they found in their research that low conflict couples were actually much more fragile than the conflict-ridden couples, okay? So I want us to challenge this idea that conflict is bad. We have to change the connotation. It has to stop being conflict is bad, and we have to start looking at conflict as an opportunity. It's a path to understanding, a path to peace, and a path to connection, okay? If we do it right. If we are able to model Christ in the face of conflict, okay? Now, I love this one, okay? According to the book, okay, books, he's got a series of books, there's 3 ways to respond to a bid for connection, whether it's conflict or something else. You can either turn toward, okay, which is like you respond to the person, like the classic example they give is like you're sitting here and your partner's sitting here, you're both kind of like playing on your phones, very culturally relevant, okay, and you see something that's funny and you go to your partner, okay, and you're like, oh, hey, look at this funny whatever, what's cool, reel, meme, TikTok, whatever, okay, whatever's cool, okay, look at this funny thing, okay. Your partner can respond in one of 3 ways, okay. They can turn toward, okay, which is respond, reciprocate, give your full attention, like stop what they're doing to focus on you, okay, and say, oh yeah, is it funny? Let me see, show me, okay. They can turn away, which is they're involved in whatever it is they're doing, and you say, oh hey, look at this thing, and they just kind of like do one of these, or like, not right now, okay, they've turned away. Or they can turn against, which is like, can't you see I'm busy? Okay, and they turn that into something negative. So those are the 3 kind of responses to any sort of bid for connection, okay? So then we take that and we look at Christ, okay? We look at when somebody made a bid for connection with Christ, what did he do? Okay, can I get someone to read? This is a tough crowd about the reading. Maybe not the jokes, but the reading. Can you pull up John 13, 6-9, and somebody else pull up Matthew 26, 20-25. I got Andy's gonna do 1. Who's gonna do number 2? Thank you, friend. Okay. Tell me when you're ready, Andy. Sorry? Matthew 26, 20-25.
Ready?
Ready.
Then he came to Simon Peter, and Peter said to him, Lord, are you washing my feet? Jesus answered and said to him, what I am doing you do not understand now, but you will know after this. Peter said to him, you shall never wash my feet. Jesus answered him, if I do not wash you, you have no part with me. Simon Peter said to him, Lord, not my feet only, but also my hands and my head.
So, okay, I'm very biased because I love the relationship between St. Peter and Christ. But there was a little bit of sass going in both directions, okay? Like, St. Peter kind of like sassed him for washing feet, right? And instead of responding, like, to the sass, he responded to the why behind the sass. He didn't, like, and just move to the next disciple. You know what I mean? Which is what I would have done. I would have just dismissed him and moved to the next one. I mean, the washing of the feet, like, that ain't me either. But, like, do you know what I mean? And, like, the back and forth, each of them turned toward. Each of them refocused their attention on the other person instead of dismissing, instead of turning against, instead of all of that. They refocused on the other person. Who's my friend who's going to read Matthew 26?
Matthew 26, 20, okay. When evening had come, he sat down with the 12. Now as they were eating, he said, assuredly I say to you, one of you will betray me. And they were exceedingly sorrowful, and each of them began to say to him, Lord, is it I? He answered and said, he who dipped his hand with me in the dish will betray me. The Son of Man indeed goes, just as it is written of him. But woe to that man by whom the Son of Man is betrayed. It would have been good for that man if he had not been born. Then Judas, who was betraying him, answered and said, Rabbi, is it I? He said to him, you have said it.
Anybody know what Judas did after that? Picked up his belongings and left. Okay? So yes, is this a little bit like, combative? For sure. Okay? But this, if we're looking at conflict as a bid for connection, okay, as an opportunity to either turn toward and hopefully not turn away and turn against, okay, Christ gave him the opportunity to say something. He gave him the opportunity to connect. I know that this is happening. The conflict had already happened in their hearts, okay? And the beauty of St. Peter is that he's able to own his faults. He's able to acknowledge where he went wrong and repent and apologize for it. What did Judas do? He turned away. He picked up his belongings in that setting and out the door he went. He responded to the bid for connection by turning away. You know what else is really funny? What's another way of saying turning toward? When somebody comes at you with a conflict, okay, which you know now is a bid for connection, okay, and maybe their bid for connection is wrapped in barbed wire, okay, because they're a red and they can't like do very well at delivering things nicely, okay? What's another way of saying turning toward? Turning your other cheek toward? Mr. John Gottman patenting these ideas, Habibi? They exist elsewhere. Another way of saying turning toward is responding to why somebody is doing that, responding with curiosity, responding with questions, responding with turning your face towards them and not turning away and not turning against. Not responding to what they said, but responding to why they said it. Conflict is the road to understanding, but we have to be able to mirror him in the conflict in order for us to get from it what he wants us to get from it. In order for it to be a path to understanding and a path to peace, we have to be able to do it the way he did it, the way he modeled it for us. Self-denial, love, truth, humility. Like that's the whole premise of marriage. Is that you deny yourself. You deny the pride that wants to prompt the reaction that you're about to have, okay? And when you're being attacked, you respond by serve. You respond by sacrificial love. That's the whole premise for marriage as a path to salvation. Okay, this is very difficult for reds like me, okay? Very difficult, okay? When somebody comes at you, okay, with their bid for connection, wrapped in barbed wire, okay, of conflict and sass, okay? Let no corrupt word proceed out of your mouth, but what is good for necessary edification, that it may impart grace to the hearers. What do I mean by that? Okay? Anger itself is not the part that we caution against. It's not the anger. Okay? Be angry and do not sin. It's not the anger. It's how you let that anger manifest itself. Okay? I can sit here and I can be heated about something that's happening, but I can take that and be productive with it, or I can take that and decimate you. Right? At work, okay? My staff come into my office for a variety of reasons. My door is like a revolving door at work. Sometimes I can't get stuff done because they can't get out of my office, okay? I am in a position to listen better for the ones that come. They're angry about something, but they haven't let that anger manifest as disrespect, as opposed to the ones that come in and they're spitting fire. I have to like work myself down to be able to hear the why behind the what. So the anger itself that can motivate to action, motivate productively, is not what we fear. It's how you let that anger manifest itself. So in marriage, okay, we talk about, it's like a very like creepy looking picture, okay? We talk about the 4 horsemen of marriage, okay? And if you let these 4 horsemen into your marriage, and Mamalakis talks about it all the time, okay? You're walking a dangerous path, okay? Contempt, criticism, defensiveness, stonewalling, okay? Especially if you let that into your speech. I'm gonna argue that this is a principle that is not specific to marriage. This is everywhere, okay? If I talk to my staff with contempt or criticism or defensiveness or stonewalling, I've wrecked our relationship. First of all, I cannot talk to my staff with contempt. HR will get on me, okay? Defensiveness means that I haven't heard what they're saying. If I'm being defensive about my position, that makes them feel like they're not heard. When we talk about relationship goals, okay, and you come to me and you say, hey, you know what, like, I don't really agree with this part that you said. I think we need to, like, change it up, whatever. If I get defensive, okay, I'm not hearing how we're gonna make this better. I'm not hearing how we're gonna make this more culturally relevant. I'm not hearing how we're gonna try and evolve this to meet the changing needs if I'm defensive. If I'm critical, okay, I put the other person on the defense. And then the worst of the 4 horsemen is stonewalling. When you don't even want to try anymore. when they're sassing you and their bid for connection is wrapped in barbed wire and you don't care enough to respond. That's almost like rock bottom, okay? The right manifestation of anger is curiosity, okay? So like, what was it? 2 or 3 days ago, like 2 or 3 days before I came, okay? For anybody who's heard me already, I talk about my husband a lot. My husband's the best. He's like up here. The bar's super high, okay? But my husband, one of the learning curves for us was like, he's like mellow yellow, okay? Like, is he excited? We don't know. Is he mad? We don't know. He sounds the same no matter what, okay? And I'm like the opposite. I'm like highs and lows, talk with your hands, like lots of drama and everything that I do. I'm like an emotional roller coaster, okay? And so, like, for me, who's like red, yellow, you know, we learned each other, okay? And so even though to somebody on the outside, it sounds like Rami's just like barely speaking above a whisper, because I know who he is, I can respond to like the very slight fluctuations in his tone of voice, very slight. You'll miss it, you won't even know it's there, okay? Very slight, because I'm like hyper aware of it, okay? And there was like 2 or 3 days ago, my husband feels very strongly about like laundry. Like he doesn't feel strongly about most things, okay? But like he doesn't like this idea that laundry gets put out from the basket. It has to be folded in a drawer. Like who cares? Just piles are fine. No, he feels very strongly about it. That's fine, no problem. Like he's still worth it, I promise, okay? So there was something that happened the other day. We came back from vacation, whatever, something about the laundry, and the laundry's like a sore spot for him, okay? And he, slight fluctuation in the tone of voice. And you see me, Millie, Toby, Maddie, everybody did like an about face to see like, oh, what just happened? Like daddy's about to lose his bananas. It doesn't sound like losing bananas. You wouldn't even know, you would have missed it, okay? But we know daddy, okay? He's about to lose his bananas, okay? If I respond with defensiveness, okay? Are you saying that I'm not doing enough for the laundry? What's that gonna do? That's gonna ignite. But the right manifestation of my anger, okay, and I carry a lot of guilt about like the house kind of stuff because I work a lot. Like my job is too much. Don't get me started on the mom guilt and the priorities and all that stuff, okay? The right manifestation is curiosity. Like what's going on? There is something here that ignited something in him. The right manifestation of anger, even though I'm bristling, okay, is seek to understand. The path to understanding. So we have to kind of change the connotations of conflict and anger as being bad and avoid, and reframe them as a path forward. Okay. So let's talk about the types of conflict, okay? The people that are married are really gonna get stressed about this. This is very stressful. And when I read this, I was also very stressed, okay? There's a lot of like psychological research about conflict and conflict resolution, all that kind of stuff, okay? There are 2 categories of conflict. There's solvable and perpetual, okay? Solvable is there's like a logistical problem where a solution exists. The logistical problem is that Rami keeps the wipe containers open and they dry out. Kill me, okay? The solution is that we close them. That's it. Problem solved. Check mark. Successful marriage, okay? A perpetual problem is something that is a reflection of core differences. So differences in temperaments, in values, in beliefs, priorities, upbringing. It's a core difference that will likely always be there. It's perpetual, okay? I'll give you an example. I was grown up in a very different environment than my husband. My husband's family's like, you know, like they're like super lovey and like hippy dippy and everybody talks about everything and love, all that kind of stuff. We were like, uber conservative, like happy birthday, shake the hand. Like we were very like, you know what I mean? So like when I was growing up, okay, when I was a kid, if somebody hits you at school, okay, the first question I get from my parents is, did you hit them back and did you hit them back harder? Because if you don't, you're weak. Figure it out, okay? Rami's upbringing is, if somebody hits you, you love them. Turn the other cheek. Love, okay? So Millie's like maybe 2 or something in daycare. My eldest is 2 in daycare, okay? And it's the first time she's been hit by a kid, okay? And Millie was like our first, and like we had stars in our eyes for Millie. She was like the moon and the stars and then whatever. We had a difficult journey of pregnancy, don't get me started, okay? And she came after like lots of loss and lots of heartache and all that kind of stuff. So she was like everything, okay? So she comes home and they're giving us an incident report, okay? That some little punk, okay, bit my daughter, okay? Fight him and his mom, okay? And my first reaction is, Millie, what did you do? What'd you do? And she's like, what? Did you bite him back? Did you hit him? Take off your shoes. Just take him down. Take him right down, okay? And Rami's looking at me like, who are you even, okay? And Rami's like, no, we don't hit. I'm like, what do you mean? She's gonna get destroyed. And Millie, like, relative to the growth curve in her cohort, like, she's like a full 2 heads shorter than everybody else. All my kids are premature. They're not even on the growth curve. What is the growth curve? They don't even know what that is, okay? She's gonna get destroyed. And he's just like, no, there is no circumstance where it's okay to hit. I'm like, yes, there is self-defense. What do you mean, okay? And that is a reflection of a core difference, okay? When Toby gets hit, resurfaces because it's perpetual. It's a reflection in a core difference. You will never marry somebody who is 100% aligned with you. So there will be solvable and there will be perpetual. And this discussion reappears a lot. Like, what's the right way to do things? And we go back and forth. And like, okay, like, is there a happy medium? And okay, only in self-defense. Okay, like, did you tell a teacher, here's an algorithm of like, do this, is this, and then if you've done these 5 steps, then you can hit. Like, we go back and forth about it. Well, not for Madeline. Madeline doesn't get hit. Madeline is the hitter, okay? Madeline is the kid who their parents want to fight me, okay? That's Maddie, the Reds, okay? But there is solvable and perpetual. And 69%, roughly, based on this study, are perpetual. They're not going to go away. They're going to keep resurfacing. 31% solvable. But that's a kind of gruesome statistic, right? Because doesn't that like sentence you to a life of conflict? Yeah, kind of. But it's only gruesome if we label conflict negatively. If we let it hold that like negative connotation. But it's also why we talk about reconciliation, not resolution. That's a very, very big difference, okay? In marriage, okay, the goal of conflict is to use it as an opportunity to walk together the path of salvation. Denial of the self, denial of the pride that I want to justify why I'm gonna sass you right back, okay? Denial of my needs that are not being met in this discussion, and I serve anyway, and I love anyway, okay? In dating, the goal of conflict is to assess whether this person can do this, whether this person wants to do this, whether this person has the potential to do this in conflict, in learning the person, in understanding them. The path to understanding, okay? Conflict is inevitable, but combat is optional. Disagreeing is inevitable, but blow-ups, that's optional. Okay? Let's talk about conflict styles, okay? This makes me a little bit uncomfortable, but it's okay. We're going to talk about it. You guys have all my skeletons now. There's like nothing that you guys don't know about me now. I've given you all my dirty secrets, okay? So there's 3 rough categories of conflict resolution. Number 1 is conflict avoidant, okay? So these are the people that shy away from conflict, right? Like somebody's upset about something, and they're just like, I'm sorry. Let's gloss over it and pretend like it didn't happen because they just want to like get back to being good, okay? In Rami's life, my husband, okay, he is conflict avoidant, okay? There's a girl that he works with, okay? Like, if it was me, like I would have wrecked her, but that's not Rami, okay? Rami is like a happy love, like that kind of thing, and like whatever. Conflict avoidant. He'd rather not have the interaction. He'd rather not have the altercation, and he'd rather focus on what's good, okay, but not talk about what's wrong. Like things are going bad, but let's focus on what's going right, and just ignore what's going wrong. He's not like that at home. At work, he's like that, okay? Whereas I am the opposite, okay? At work, friends, church, service, sorry, okay? Like, I'm in. Let's go. Let's do this. Let's hash it out. Let's fight it out, okay? At home, I'm like this. I'm fine, everything's fine, we're all good. And he's learned me over the last 12 years to kind of like work me, okay? But this is where I started. In couples that are avoidant, okay, you gotta watch out for that like drift and distance, because nothing gets worked on, nothing gets talked about, and it's not a path to understanding anymore. It's a hard stop, okay? The second is validating. Okay, the validating style of conflict. So these are people that like debate back and forth, they try to persuade each other, etc. They're generally like, calm. It's not like a blowout, but they're willing to just like concede what they think to prevent escalation. So they're not afraid of talking about it like the avoiders, okay? They'll kind of like, go back and forth a little bit, but right when it gets to a point where it's escalating, they're like, whatever, I'll just give in, no problem. Okay? Better, maybe, than the avoidant, okay? But, we still have to there's still some work to do there, right? Because they're very focused on like a solution, they're very task-oriented, but that connection gets lost, okay? The third one, okay, everywhere but home, is volatile, okay? And this you see a lot with Reds. Okay? They do not shy away from conflict. They do not shy away from confrontation, and they're all about it, and they thrive, and they love the debates, okay? There's a guy that I serve back home, like I do, one of the other services I do is like Coptic clubs and stuff like that, right? So this guy goes to a university that's a little bit far, so sometimes I drive out and do their talks and whatever, okay? And he's just like, oh, this guy, like, he's tough, man. And when he gets into like a debate, he's like shouting and like yelling and like, what? How can you possibly think that? You must be stupid if that's your actual opinion. Like, he's rough, man. I actually stopped referring to him as his name, and I call him RF, Refiner's Fire, because the people around you get refined by your fire. You're a spiritual discipline for all of us, okay? These are the people that are like heated debate, high emotion, like raised voices, like they're in. They're not afraid of it, okay? They're not the greens that like shy away from like 1 decibel of increased tone and volume, okay? When the couple is volatile, okay, like 1 and 1, okay, their debates get very heated, okay? And sometimes they can like throw a joke in there to de-escalate, okay? But the problem is, like when it's at its peak, okay, sometimes it spirals into contempt, like criticism, and it gets ugly, okay? That's if the couples are both the same, okay? There's also a mismatch between couples. So I'm, for example, at home avoidant, okay, and my husband is validator, okay? So there's lots of overlap in style, like it's not so bad, like, he can kind of probe me, like we've learned and all that kind of stuff, but it does require awareness of the other person's conflict for it to be productive, okay? If you have a validator and a volatile, okay, the validator, like the greens, okay, get very overwhelmed, okay? And like any type of conflict, they almost like retreat and check out because they're overwhelmed by the heated nature of the volatile. And then, in turn, the volatile wants to spar, right? They want somebody who's gonna go back and forth with them because that's what they love, okay? And they get frustrated that this validator has now checked out because they're deterred by the escalation, okay? And then they probe them and they like poke the bear to try to get a rise out of them to like resurface the discussion, okay? And then the validator feels criticized. So it's like a vicious circle between the validator and the volatile, okay? In this type of setting, we talk about making sure that you appreciate the other person's emotion to bring the temperature down, okay? And pause, focus on how people are feeling before you focus on the solution to bring the temperature down, okay? And the last combination is volatile and avoidant. Oh man, this one is bad. Okay. This one is tough. You really gotta there's a lot of work to be done with this one, okay? Where the volatile, this person is like checked out, they're gone, okay? They're like racing away from the conflict, and the volatile is chasing them, okay? And they're trying to make jokes and tease them and criticize them, whatever, and the more the volatile tries, the more the avoider is feeling hurt and feeling attacked and feeling like they can't do this. And the avoider is making the volatile feel rejected because they keep trying, bid for connection, and the avoidant is turning away. Okay? So in this combination, we tell couples, dating or married or engaged or whatever, okay, the volatile has to bring the temperature down, and the avoidant, who's often a green, needs to stay because their reaction is to run. But, in marriage, maybe that flies. When you have kids, you don't get the luxury of walking away when your kid comes to you with a situation. So, a few red flags and things about fights that we talk about. So number one is escalation. So in a conflict, okay, there's a point at which it goes from a conversation to a conflict. That's the point of escalation, okay? That's the point that validators and avoiders are petrified of. That's the volatiles, no problem. Let's escalate right from the get-go. But the avoiders and the validators are afraid of this point. And it's the point at which a conversation steps up in temperature. Like, it was a joke, and now somebody's upset, okay? The 4 horsemen we talked about, okay? At all costs, you need to avoid letting the 4 horsemen into whatever relationship. Dating, engaged, married, friendship, professional. The 4 horsemen only do harm. Never good. There is never a role for stonewalling or contempt or criticism or defensiveness, okay? Not listening, okay? And usually that happens when people get their guard up, okay? Emotional flooding. So I just want to talk about this one for a second, okay? What is emotional flooding, okay? It is like fight or flight, okay? It's like a fight or flight reaction where your nervous system is hijacked, okay? Happens at different speeds in a conflict. So for a green, it's going to happen way earlier than for a red. A red's threshold for emotional flooding is way higher than a green because a red is not deterred by conflict, but a green, wow, biggest source of stress. But at the point of emotional flooding, everybody reacts the same, which is they're just overwhelmed with what's happening and they need to just check out. They need to take a step back. If all of your conflicts look like this, we have a problem and we have some work to do. Because that is not a path to peace or a path to understanding. Okay? Okay. Repair attempts. So this is really interesting, okay? In this book, this secular book that I'm loving that has all these copyrighted ideas that are all in the Bible, so maybe not so copyrighted, okay? There's something that they call repair attempts. And this is a prognostic indicator of the success of a marriage. So in their studies, okay, many studies, they followed couples for years, okay? From dating, engagement, right through their marriage, divorce, whatever, and they followed multiple, thousands of couples for years, okay? And what they were trying to do was they were trying to draw cause and effect relationships between indicators that are present in each of these couples, okay? And one of the indicators for success that they observed in their studies is something called a repair attempt. Okay? So in a conflict, remember we talked about turning toward? In a conflict, okay, if 2 couples are having at it, okay, and they're having a fight, a repair attempt is like an olive branch. Okay? So depending on the couple, depending on the people, it can look a variety of different ways. It can be so I'll tell you my husband's repair attempt. Wow, we're full disclosure here today, okay? If we're going at it and we're upset about something, okay, my husband will stop whatever he's doing, okay, usually it's the dishes. He'll stop whatever he's doing and he'll turn to me and he'll put his hands out like this and grab both of my hands. That's his repair attempt, okay? And when we were dating, I'm not a touchy person, right? So I'm smack it away, okay? I don't like touching, I don't even know you, bro. Do you know what I mean? But that's, now I've learned him, okay? That's his repair attempt, okay? But also because Rami's, his love language is physical touch, okay? It can look in a variety of different ways. For some people, it's a joke, okay? The conversation is escalating, and they'll throw in a joke to kind of bring the temperature down. Repair attempt. Okay? They'll turn towards the other person. Repair attempt. Okay? They'll use their words can we start over? Can we take a pause? Hold on, I said that wrong. Can I take that back? Repair attempt. It's an olive branch, okay? It's an attempt to refocus on the path to understanding and redirect from the path to escalation. And in the successful couples that had happy and fulfilling marriages, this was the common observation across. And in the couples in their study who ended up in divorce, one of the cause and effect relationships that they noted was the absence of repair attempts. Okay? The last observation, which also I found was interesting, was a ratio. So they call this the golden rule, the 5-to-1 ratio. Okay? In a conflict, okay, there has to be, not has to, like this is just based according to the research, so take it with a grain of salt, okay? A ratio of 5 positive interactions to 1 negative, okay? So think about your conflicts with people that you've dated, or your spouses, or your siblings, or your parents, whatever it is, okay? If there are like 5 repair attempts to 1 sassy comment, okay, you're doing good. If there's 5 sass, okay, 1 repair attempt. So based on their statistical data, they found that the magic ratio was 5-to-1. And like the premise behind that is you fill the cup with positive, okay? And the negative has a pool of positive to fall back on. As opposed to, if the bucket is just empty, when the negative happens, there's nothing to fall back on. There's nothing to counteract the narrative that you're now telling yourself about this negativity, right? Like, take my husband as an example, okay? He's the best, okay? When Rami had his like slight fluctuation, okay, to the laundry situation, okay, there was like a little bit of sass there, okay? Like, I'm saying sass, but like you guys don't know him. You would never know it's sass. To you, it feels like, wow, God bless you, I'm praying for you. Like, that's what it sounds like to you, okay? But we know him. Like, Bola's laughing because he knows Rami. Like, Rami will, like, we had a situation, again, last year with Toby, whatever, and on one hand, I can count how many times I've heard Rami get annoyed with somebody. 4. I've been married for 12 years. 4 times, okay? 4, total, okay? One of them was last year. Okay? And Rami comes off the conversation and he's like, and I was on the conversation as well because it was something to do with Toby and like one of the people that was helping him or whatever. And I'm on the conversation as well. And Rami's coming off hot and he's telling his brother about it. He's like, I told him off. Like, I was so mad. You know what I'm saying? I don't agree with you, but I'm so sorry. God bless you. I'm praying for you. Like, we're wired very different. Okay? Very, very different. Oh, sorry, I lost where I am. Sorry, okay? But, so when Rami gives me like a little bit of sass, okay, or like a comment that like for Rami, okay, is sass, okay, I already have, because of who he is, a pool that tells the opposite narrative. So when Rami gives me a comment of sass, I'm not like, this guy's a jerk, because I have a pool of how Rami is amazing that I'm swimming in. And that sass is a drop in the bucket. It dissolves immediately because I already fall back on the pool. So their discussion about building the 5-to-1 ratio is that you have to be building your pool so that when you do lose control because nobody's perfect, it's the outlier. It's not the norm. It's not what defines the narrative. What defines the narrative is the positive. All right. So now we're going to talk about, so we talked about like why do people fight, the types of conflict styles, etc. How you do it wrong, okay, with the 4 horsemen and escalation and all that kind of stuff, flooding. Now we're going to talk about how do we do it right. So we said that conflict is a path to peace, it's a bid for connection, and it's a path to understanding. If we do it the way Christ taught us to do it. If we do it and model Christ in the way we do it. So we're going to break down the model into 5 steps, okay? And we'll go like one at a time, okay? Fair? Still with me? Okay. So, step number 1, we are going to turn toward. When somebody comes to you with their bid for connection, wrapped in barbed wire, okay, we're going to turn toward. This concept applies in so many different ways, and there's so many different ways that we can say it. Okay? When we are talking about temperaments, we talk about respond to the why, not the what. That's turn toward. Okay? We talk about the Bible, turn the other cheek. Yeah, turn this so that your face is facing the person. Turn toward, not against. Okay? When we talk about your anger, okay, your response to anger should not be the 4 horsemen. It should be curiosity. You know what the manifestation of curiosity is? Turning toward. asking more questions, refocusing on the person, seeking to understand. Okay? 97% of the time, the way a conflict starts is how it ends. So if a conflict starts with like turning against, that's usually how it ends. And you have to go back and like play damage control. So the importance of the start of the conflict dictates its level of success. You start it with an attack, with harshness, with words that burn and that slap, that's probably the reaction you're going to elicit out of the other person, and that's probably how it's going to end. But if you open up a conflict with curiosity and seeking to understand what just happened, that is a determinant of success. And in marriage as a path to salvation, that is a perfect example of denial of the self. Perfect example. A perfect example of how marriage refines you and edifies you and teaches you how to take your response and what you want to do and what's therapeutic for you and what's going to make you feel better in the heat of the moment and deprioritize that in service of the other person. That's the perfect example. When they come at you, wrapped in barbed wire, you turn toward and not away or against. Let's talk about the Samaritan woman, okay? I love this example, okay? So, John 4, okay, Samaritan woman came to the well to draw water, and Jesus said to her, "Give me a drink." Okay, disciples had gone away, etc., and she says to him, sass, okay, wrapped in barbed wire, but still a bit for connection, okay, bless you. "How is it that you, being a Jew, ask a drink from me, a Samaritan woman? For Jews have no dealings with Samaritans." Jesus answered and said to her, "If you knew the gift of God and who it is who says to you, 'Give me a drink,' you would have asked him and he would have given you living water." The first time I read this as a kid, I was like, wow, it's kind of rude. Like, how is it that you, being a Jew, ask a drink of me, a Samaritan woman? It's kind of rude. And like, I'm hot-headed as a person, okay? And like, my response would have been like, "Forget you and your water and your well. We'll find my own well that has better water than yours. You don't know what you're missing, lady." But that's not how he responded. He responded in a way that piqued her interest, piqued her curiosity. And look what happens at the end of the story. They go back and forth, and he's responding by turning toward, by refocusing on her, by looking at her, by wanting to understand why she's feeling, asking her questions, and seeking to like connect with her. And her response? The woman said to him, "Sir, give me this water that I may not thirst, nor come here to draw." And how did the Samaritan woman end? First person to preach the gospel. Why? Because in the conflict, he turned toward. He took that barbed wire and he responded with curiosity, not with condemnation, dismissal, defensiveness, criticism. He responded with curiosity. Okay? So somebody comes at you with barbed wire, how do you respond? Okay? What does that look like? We talked about this in the last one, the baggage and breakups, okay? The first thing you do is look inwards, okay? Somebody's coming at you, okay? And you look inwards. What did I do? Where did I go wrong? This is how I'm feeling. This is my perspective. You do not point the finger at the other person when they're coming in hot. Maybe they're wrong. Maybe they're crazy, okay? Maybe you're 100% justified. But in pointing the finger, are you turning away or against or turning toward? Right? The classic conflict resolution talks, classic, okay, is you use I statements. It's not that you fell short, okay? It's that I feel like my needs are not being met. It's not that you are bad and you're mean and you're a jerk and you're an idiot and you didn't do the laundry and. It's that I feel stressed that the laundry's not being done. I feel stressed that the kids don't have uniform for school tomorrow. That's literally our actual last conflict. Like, you're getting real-time data here, okay? The other thing that we generally advise people to stay away from is always or never, okay? Because now you've reduced this person, you've sentenced them to perpetual failure, okay? Rami, you always leave the wipes containers open. He does, okay? But if I say that, I've sentenced him to failure and I've dismissed his efforts to try and the times that he did get it right, because I'm only focusing on the times he got it wrong. Part of turning toward is not making sure that your response is wrapped in barbed wire. And listen, okay? I know that my husband is a saint. Everybody who knows my husband knows who he is, and that Rami is goals, okay? You know what? You know why we named it relationship goals? Because it's Rami. Rami is relationship goals, okay? That's who it is, okay? His uncanny ability to throw out a repair attempt is wild. It's wild. I could be losing my bananas, okay? And it is awkward and socially unacceptable for him to repair attempt. And he will just pause whatever's happening. There was one time where we were fighting as we were driving. The guy pulled the car over, okay? Puts his hands out. It is remarkable how he's able to, it's remarkable. But that is part of turning toward, is the repair attempt. And repair attempts are cross-sectional across all 5 steps of conflict resolution. They can come in at any step, okay? But we talked about the importance of starting a conflict off right, not letting it cross that point of escalation. That's repair attempts. Okay, so step 1 is turning toward, okay? Step 2 is listening, okay? Everybody, not everybody, okay? Reds, okay? I can't extrapolate me onto everybody else. When they're getting attacked, they wanna defend, okay? They wanna debate. They wanna rebuttal, okay? And maybe greens also feel that way, but they just won't do it. I don't know, I'm not a green, I'm a red, okay? But everybody wants to, But if you look at James 1:9, okay, the first thing he says is let every man be swift to hear. That's the first thing. The first thing is listening. So when I have my staff who are coming in here, spitting fire, okay, and wrecking me and your leadership and you're the worst and we've never had a worse director than you, and, okay, if I clap back, I get nothing about what has prompted this reaction. Nothing. I get nothing out of the whole interaction. Swift to hear is the key. Because you're not listening for ways to refute their argument. You're not listening for all the ways that you're going to tell them that they're wrong, okay? You're listening to where they have been hurt. You're listening to the why, not the what. That's what you're doing. You're listening to where they need comfort, okay? I know I talk about this a lot. I think I mentioned it yesterday too. One of the most powerful things I learned was about this concept of the comfort that I have received and offering the comfort to others with the comfort that I have received, right? So Pentecost, the festival of the first fruits, the harvest of the first fruits, right? And so it just so happened that Pentecost happened on that festival weekend, okay? And that's why there was all these people from different countries speaking different languages in that same place at the same time, okay? And the disciples are stressed. Okay, they're mad, they're scared, they're angry because for the 100th time it seems, okay, Christ has left them again, and they feel purposeless. They're scared. They don't know what to do. What are the next steps? What are we without you? We're nothing without you. Okay, and then He sends the Holy Spirit down upon them, which is the comfort that they have received. They needed that comfort in that moment, and what's the first thing they do? They step out of that room, and they offer the first fruits of the comfort that they received to the people out there. The first fruits. And so when you're listening for emotion and hurt, you're not listening for all the ways that they're wrong. You're listening for where I can offer the comfort that I have received. Where I can be to them what Christ is to me. Healer, restore. That's what you're listening for. That's the part that brings the temperature down. Is where can I offer the comfort that I have received, okay? Again, we talked about this example in the earlier talk, okay, with the baggage and breakups, but Elijah, okay? Elijah, drama fest, okay? Drama, I love it, okay? Drama fest. If it were me, okay, I'm a harsh person, okay? I just made you the voice of God's power and magnitude over people. Through me, you just accomplished much, okay? And now you're being dramatic. Lord, take my life, okay? But what does God do? Comfort. He listens to the hurt. He listens to why Elijah is tormented, why Elijah is hurt, why Elijah is scared. He's not responding to what Elijah is saying. He's responding to why Elijah is reacting that way. Okay? It happens all over the Bible. The Samaritan woman, Christ is listening to why she's hurt about the 5 husbands and not what she's saying. Okay? Lazarus' death, when they told him, this wouldn't have happened if you had been here. Like, where are you? Like, if you were here, he wouldn't have died. You could have prevented this if you were here, if you were more around, if you were close by. He's not responding to the what. He's responding to why. Why is she saying that? She's grieving. She's hurting. She just lost her brother. She doesn't know what I'm about to do. And he's listening for the hurt and the comfort that we can offer, the comfort that we received. So you're looking for the hurt and you're looking past the accusation. So, sorry. So what was step number 1? Where are we at? Turning toward, okay? Step number 2, listening for the hurt, okay? Step number 3, this is a tough one, Reds, okay? Confessing your part, okay? Now, sorry, I just want to go back to something for a second, okay? If you notice in the trajectory, okay, confessing your part comes before speaking the truth in love. Confessing your part comes before you clap back about, well, yeah, you know, maybe I did this wrong, but you hurt me, right? If you look, step 3 comes before step 4, okay? This is not an accident, friends. This is not an accident. Sorry, I need to flip faster, okay? This goes back to the idea that all conflict is our problem, okay? If Rami's upset about something, it's not Rami's problem to deal with that. It's my problem. It's our problem. We own it, right? As much as depends on you, live peaceably with all men. There is your accountability and how your partner feels. That is our problem, not your problem. And in a vast majority of conflict, I'd like to say all conflict, but, you know, slippery slope, I guess, there is shared responsibility. There is something that everybody could have done better, could have done differently. And we said the same thing in the breakups talk, okay? It is exceedingly rare that a breakup is shouldered by only one individual and the other person is 100% blameless. It's the same in conflict. It is exceedingly rare that the blame is shouldered by one individual and the other person is completely blameless. And so part of conflict resolution is being able to own your part. Acknowledge the part that you played in the escalation. Own the fact that you are flawed. You could have done things better. And you know what? Like, I'm sorry that I reacted this way. I'm sorry that, like, I made you feel this way without realizing. Acknowledge what part you had to play. Because 99.9999999% of the time, you had a part to play. And one of the, like, positive side effects of being able to do that is that it brings down the walls of the person who started the conflict and opens up this conflict back to a path to understanding. Because part of the reason why escalation continues to happen is because the other person doesn't feel heard. They don't feel acknowledged. They don't feel like you're understanding their perspective. You're understanding why they're hurt. The worst thing that you can do in a conflict is dismiss it. There's somebody that I fight with all the time. He's a friend. I want to kill him. He's almost not going to be a friend, okay? And I always tell him, I hate fighting with you. You want to know why? Because he's dismissive. Even when he apologizes, it's, well, I'm sorry that you took it that way. What the, okay? Sorry that you're an idiot, okay? Like, it drives me crazy because what it does is it makes the other person feel not heard. But the second that you're able to turn toward, okay, listen for why they're hurt and acknowledge what you might have done, like unintentionally, to play a role in that, they feel heard. They feel seen. They feel like you understand them. And that defensiveness goes right out the window. That like escalation goes right out the window. And it brings them from here down to here. And it brings the temperature from here all the way down to here. We talked about this earlier. Peacemakers, not desirers, okay? Not peace, hope for the besters, okay? People who go out and pursue peace. And part of that pursuit of peace is owning what part you had to play in the absence of peace. Okay, I have to stop. We're going to have to do the St. Peter series because I keep referencing it, okay? I love it, okay? This is one of the ones that we talk about in the conflict discussion with St. Peter and Christ, okay? When he had stopped speaking, he said to Simon, "Launch out into the deep and let down your nets for a catch." But Simon answered and said to him, sass, okay, lots of sass is coming here, "Master, we have toiled all night and caught nothing. Nevertheless, at your word, I will let down the net." Like, listen, I know that this is going to be for nothing. Like, you haven't been standing here all night when we've been doing it. We already tried this, okay? It's like when I can't open something, okay, and my husband comes and just does exactly the same thing that I just did, okay? I mean, Habibi, I tried it. I'm not an idiot, okay? I know it's not going to open. Like, sure, you can just quality assurance me, I guess, but like, I've already done that, okay? That's what St. Peter's saying, okay? We've done this already. You're asking us to do what we have been doing for the past 12 hours, okay? "Nevertheless, at your word, I will let down the net." And when they had done this, they caught a great number of fish, and their net was breaking. So they signaled to their partners in the other boat to come and help them. And when they came and filled both the boats, so they began to sink. When Simon Peter saw it, he fell down at Jesus' knees, saying, "Depart from me, for I am a sinful man, O Lord." The beauty of St. Peter, okay? He's hot-headed, conflict-ridden, okay? Him and St. Paul, woo! There was sparks there, okay? But he can own it. He can own it. Look what happened after Cornelius, okay? These guys are fighting about Gentiles, Jews, blah, blah, blah. What's the right thing to do, okay? As soon as he can, like, look inward and see the part that he had to play, he will apologize for it. There is no pride there. There is only eye on the prize. And you know what? I was wrong about the path to the prize, but we're still eye on the prize. Okay? We talk about the same thing when it comes to service. Okay? When servants are disagreeing about what's the right thing to do. Eye on the prize. Okay? It's not personal. The path might look different, okay? And we can disagree on the path. But eye on the prize. If you can acknowledge your faults, it accomplishes much in the relationship. It accomplishes much in the conflict resolution. Okay? So, turn toward, listen for hurt, okay? Confess your part. Number 4, speaking the truth in love. Nowhere in conflict resolution do we talk about taking your needs and just, you don't get to say anything, okay? This person slammed you and like crucified you and were disrespectful and they blah, 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 and we don't talk about that. We just pretend like it didn't happen. That is not a path to understanding, and that is not a path to peace. Because you think that you're just going to gloss it over, but it's going to resurface. It's going to become baggage that shows up in multiple different areas. So there is a point where you get to talk about your side and how you're feeling and your needs and the hurt that you have sustained. But in the path to salvation, it's prioritizing the other person first. It doesn't mean that we don't get there. Okay, we get there because it is in everybody's best interest for us to circle back and get there. But first, path to salvation, you turn toward, you listen for hurt, okay, and you confess your faults. Now that you've practiced the discipline, okay, of prioritizing somebody ahead of yourself, now it's your turn, okay? And this is where you talk about your hurts and your needs and what happened and what's going on. But speaking the truth in love. Your delivery is everything. Your delivery is everything. And we go back to it's not you, like you've just turned toward and listened for the hurt and apologized and blah, blah. Okay, we're good, that's out the window. Now you're a jerk and you've done whatever. No. There's no room for that, okay? You speak the truth, but you speak the truth in love. Your message is the same, but the message is not wrapped in barbed wire, okay? The message is wrapped in love because you're not looking to re-injure what you have just confessed. You're looking for a path to understanding and a path to peace, okay? In the Samaritan woman, okay, they've now established a rapport, okay? They've established a rapport. And he knows the life that she's living. He knows. He knows what she's doing. It's not like he doesn't know. But he doesn't dilute the message. He just wraps the message in love so that it's better received. He doesn't tell her, like, yeah, I'm cool with you, like, living with people that are not your husband. You know, you do you. No. That's not what he says. He says, you have well said, I have no husband, for you have had 5 husbands, and the one whom you now have is not your husband. He doesn't dilute the message, right? Think about the adulterous woman when they wanted to stone her. We just talked about this like a minute ago, okay? The adulterous woman when they wanted to stone her, okay? And they're there, and they're dragging her out of like a really like ako-taco situation, okay? They probably caught her like right in the heat of the moment, okay? And she's probably like not clothed and whatever it is, and they drag this woman out, put her front and center at town square, okay? And they say, pick up the rocks, we have to stone her, okay? And what does he do? He calmly sits there, starts writing in the ground, okay? People are sort of like fleeing from the situation before he like outs their skeletons in the closet. And then he looks at her, and he doesn't tell her, what you're doing is okay. He tells her, go and sin no more. He doesn't dilute the message, but he wraps the message in love. So you don't dilute your needs. You don't dilute your hurts, okay? You don't sweep them under the rug, but you wrap it in love so that it's better received, okay? We talk about this a lot, like this model. There's many different names for this model, okay? Especially in the dating. Like, I'm seeing a few people here that are married, so maybe I'm like focusing on that because that's the new ministry that we're starting, and I'm like super intrigued. So like, come and talk to me after because I have some questions for you guys, like focus group kind of questions, okay? But in the dating phase, okay, we talk a lot about developing the practice of being able to articulate your needs, right? Because if you don't tell them, they're not gonna know, right? Like, I gave an example, I can't remember which day, everything's a blur right now, I've been here for too long and the days are very long, okay? But there was one day where we talked about how I don't like flowers, okay? I think it was the first day. I don't like flowers, okay? And my husband carried with him preconceived notions of what relationship looks like and what romance looks like. 8 years, this guy buys me flowers. And 8 years, I'm like, so great, thank you so much, in the garbage, okay? I don't think they smell good, I don't like them. I don't know who decided that these smell nice. I think they actually smell horrible, okay? And I'm not a plants person, I'm trying to convince my husband to just pave the whole backyard. I'm not green, I don't like it, okay? Buy me donuts, I want donuts, okay? And then he got me a bouquet of donuts, fire, okay? So good, okay? So we talk a lot about this ability to articulate your needs and your expectations and your feelings and like what you need to feel fulfilled. We have to be able to talk about that, okay? So yes, we talk about marriage as a path to salvation in terms of the prioritization, but that doesn't mean that you get off the list, okay? It just means that you develop the practice in marriage, not dating, okay? In marriage, of putting yourself lower on the list. But we're gonna get there, okay? And when we get there, sometimes, okay, it's very helpful to start the conversation with like clear boundaries. This is non-negotiable, this is negotiable, okay? So for example, in the conflicts that we perpetually have, okay, about whether the kids should defend themselves when somebody's coming at them, okay? And like Toby, just so you know, like, okay, Millie's like a lot of bark, no bite, okay? okay? Toby is neither bark nor bite. Toby, Habibi, if somebody hits him, that kid is just gonna get destroyed. Like he's just a haboob, he doesn't know how to be mean, he doesn't know how to fight back. Somebody will hit him and he'll just hug them, I'm so sorry, like he'll apologize. That's Toby, okay? So like for him specifically, I'm like, bro, just like, arm up. Like sometimes I wanna like put him in a rough situation to just like toughen him up a little bit, okay? Because he's just such a like marshmallow, okay? So like when we talk about this situation, okay? We have to decide what's a negotiable, what's a non-negotiable, okay? Rami's non-negotiable, okay, which is like the center of the bagel, is that my kids can never be the first one to hit. Agreed. Asterisk. No, I'm kidding. Agreed. Like if they say something, like, I'm kidding, okay? Agreed. You cannot initiate the fist fight. Madeline, okay? You cannot be the reason why somebody needs self-defense. Madeline, okay? My third one, she's crazy, okay? That's the non-negotiable, okay? The negotiable around it is this whole concept of like, okay, self-defense, not self-defense, like, okay, what do they do? What's the algorithm? Do we teach them like, okay, did you go to a teacher? Is there a teacher there? Like, is your like safety at risk from this like 3-year-old? Like, do you know what I mean? That's the part where there is discussion. But if you don't separate out those boundaries, it'll feel like you're ramming against a wall and you're not going anywhere, right? But if you know that this is the part that you don't think that you can give on, let's start here and work our way into the middle. Make sense? Okay. Step 5, okay? So we said, turn toward, listen for the hurt. I'm trying to remember myself. Listen for the hurt, okay? Confess your part. Speak your truth in love, okay? And step 5, reconciliation, not necessarily resolution. Are my husband and I reconciled in our conflicts about whether the kids can fight back if somebody hits them? Yes. Do we have a resolution? We don't. We still don't see eye to eye. We're still not sure where we stand on it. But are we reconciled? Yes, we are. Because remember, 69% of your fights are perpetual. 69% of them don't necessarily have a logistical solution that is like a slam dunk, okay? Everybody's got a point of view that's valid. But we are looking at reconciliation, not always resolution. Sometimes resolution, but not always, okay? Conflict is supposed to be your path to the rainbow, okay? The reason, in a previous slide, I had put a rainbow there, okay? Because the storm is bad, okay? The storm is bad. Sometimes it's really bad, okay? But what conflict is supposed to be your path to the rainbow. You gotta get to the rainbow after the storm, okay? If there is no rainbow, something's wrong. So in dating, okay, when you're assessing this person as your partner on the path to salvation, you gotta assess, are there rainbows in this relationship? Or is there just storm, storm, storm with no rainbow? If there's storm and then rainbow, great. Great. Because the rainbow's great. Look what happened after Noah and his rainbow, okay? Life was better. Things were better. We understood God better. God made a covenant, okay? You gotta make it to the rainbow. Reconciliation is the rainbow in marriage. Reconciliation is the rainbow. Okay. Talk about a few, where am I at? Am I out of time? I'm almost there, I promise. Okay? So, just a few helpful tips based on what we just talked about. So, number 1 is the flooding, okay? The flooding is a really big issue in conflicts, like dating, marriage, whatever it is, okay? Because it stops the path. So if conflict is a bid for connection and a path to peace and understanding, it takes you off the path. You just you're on the path here and then you just walk away from it because you're overwhelmed and you're flooded, okay? So how do we fight the flooding? The first thing to do is identify that it's happening, okay? You're getting overwhelmed, your heart's racing, you're starting to sweat, you're clenching your teeth, your head is spinning, you can't formulate a clear thought, okay? Identify that it's happening, okay? What you don't get to do is to be flooded and just walk away with no explanation. Because what does that tell the other person? I don't even want to try. And that's not necessarily what you're feeling, but that's what you're communicating. That this is not important enough for me to stick around. So the first step is to identify. The second step is to tell them that that is what is happening. That is what is happening. I'm not walking away because you're not important to me. I'm not walking away because I don't care enough to have this conversation with you. I'm walking away because I'm overwhelmed and I want to finish this conversation, but I want to finish this conversation when we are on the path to understanding. And right now, I'm off the path. I just need a minute to get back on it. And what they say is to get yourself like out of visual range so that you can like recharge, but you have to come back. Conflict avoiders, if you're in the crowd, you have to come back. Okay? So the classic example that we get in our marriage ministry is it okay to go to bed upset? Right? Do not let the sun go down on your wrath. That's everybody's quote. Okay? All the volatiles are like, do not let the sun go down on your wrath. Okay? And all the avoiders are just like, but like, I can't think or breathe or talk when they're mad at me. Okay? It depends. I feel like I say that a lot. It depends. Okay? I don't know. Okay? But if you are emotionally flooded, okay, and you need to take a pause, you need to walk away, you need to get out of visual range, that's fine. But you have to come back. And if right before you go to bed, okay, skeletons in the closet, here we go, bring them all out, okay? I am a red, okay, which means conflict does not bother me at all, okay? My husband is a green blue, which means conflict like paralyzes him, like he gets like consumed by it, he can't think, he can't whatever. So we could have it out, okay, have it out. Rami's like whispering and I'm yelling, okay? We could have it out, okay? And like right before bed, and I just go upstairs, I'm snoring in 30 seconds, okay? No problems. If we fight before bed, Rami doesn't sleep the whole night. He's awake the whole night. He's tossing and turning whatever, because he's green, okay? Out of service to him, okay, even though I'm tired, I want to go to bed and this doesn't really bother me that much, I will try to talk about it with him before bed so that I don't rob him of his much needed sleep. Our kids wake up at 5 a.m. every day, okay? So I don't rob him of that. If Rami was different, if Rami was a red, would I say, like, don't go to bed without reconciling? No, whatever. Doesn't matter, okay? But whatever your setup is, you make sure that you set up a time to come back. Because you have a commitment to that person. If you're an avoider, if you're a green, whatever, if you can't do this right now, fine. But you need to commit to when you are going to do it. Because you don't get to just walk away. Okay? There's a few like quick red flags that we're going to go through, okay? So number one is gridlock, which is like same fight over and over again, no reconciliation, no progress, and each time you talk about it, 4 horsemen, folks in the dating phase, red flag. Gridlock, red flag, okay? Constant state of flooding every time you guys have a disagreement, red flag, okay? There's another conflict style that we didn't talk about because that's just like a no-go, okay? Do not marry this person, okay? Do not pass go, is like the hostile conflict style and the hostile detached conflict style. So like very defensive, no listening, no repair attempts, like very critical, whatever. And then the escalation of that one is that they're just detached. Like they don't even care, like it's not even worth it for you, okay? Red flag, okay? And the last one, we've beat this one to death this weekend, is the concept of deal breakers. So all us folks that are in the dating phase, okay? Deal breakers, we've talked about that. Let everybody in this room be swift to hear, slow to speak, slow to wrath. Listen for the hurt, okay? Speak the truth in love, and pursue reconciliation. All right. Questions? Are we out of time? Could be out of time.
We'll do like 1 or 2.
1 or 2, okay.
We'll only do a couple questions because we're running out of time, but first one, fighting right, step 2 slide, said to listen without saying your own perspective. Shouldn't we be able to express our perspective along with listening?
No. Let me just get it, sorry. What was it? Step 2?
Step 2, slide, fighting.
Sorry, I'm supposed to be politically correct, right? And be like, well, you have an interesting point. No, the answer is no. I'll tell you why, okay? So you are going to get there, okay? You are going to get to the point where you're going to express your perspective, okay? But it is not the practice of like deprioritizing yourself and prioritizing the other person for you to fight fire with fire. There is a time for it, okay? But you do not do the conflict any favors by reprioritizing why you're annoyed alongside or above the other person. On the path to salvation, what we're trying to learn is self-emptying in service of the other person. Crucifying your own needs in service of the other person so that your marriage tells the truth about who he is. So that your life mirrors and reflects the sacrificial love that he taught us. That's what we're trying to do. And so that's the practice of deprioritizing. We don't chuck it out the window. We're going to get to it, and it's healthy to get to it, but you prioritize the other person first. You prioritize your spouse first. Fight me.
How do you address someone who is overly emotional or overly logical in a conflict without causing further problems?
Are they overly emotional or overly logical? So the overly emotional one, okay, these are the ones that have like the predisposition to get flooded very quickly, okay? So if your spouse or your partner or whatever is overly emotional, I don't really like that term because that makes it sound like it's a bad thing, like they're just fine, whatever, they're green or whatever it is, okay, or blue, okay? Overly emotional, okay? You have to watch your tone and volume because they are much more sensitive to escalation than you might be, okay? So the classic example we give is like a red temperament with a green temperament, okay? To a red, everything is healthy discussion, okay? It's great. Fighting, productive, great. Let's talk about it. Let's hash it out. Let's debate it, okay? To a green, everything is conflict. Everything is escalation. To a red, this just looks like a conversation. We're just having a discussion. And to a green, they're like paralyzed in fear because it looks like a conflict. Okay? So somebody who's emotional, I don't like that term though, okay? Emotional, you have to be very careful that you are not giving off the perception of escalation, knowing where they're starting. They're starting at a point that's like on this side of the spectrum. You know that they're already sensitive to what may appear as an escalation, even though you don't agree, okay? So you're catering your discussion to their starting point, not what you think, right? Back to marriage as a path to salvation. You're catering and serving them in your delivery over yourself, okay? And the one who's too logical, like that one doesn't usually escalate that much, but we do often find in these like conflict in the couple discussions, the people that are overly logical, they don't leave room for emotion, okay? So like each of those examples, there's a step in the process that's gonna be harder for them, okay? So like for this one, for the overly emotional, quote unquote, because I don't like that term, okay? The hard one for them is gonna be turned toward, okay? Because they're gonna get flooded fast and they're gonna wanna tap out. So in the coaching that we would give them, we would coach them about step 1. Stay there, don't leave, don't check out. If you need to check out, that's fine, but come back to it. And we're gonna work on your threshold for turn toward, okay? For the one that's overly logical, we're gonna work on step 2. Listening for the emotion and hurt, because they often don't leave room for that side. Everything is outcome oriented, logical, whatever. Like, this is illogical for you to be responding this way. Okay, bro, nobody asked you if it's logical or not logical. So we're gonna coach them to practice strength training in step 2. Listening for the emotion, listening to the hurt. This is the part that you have to practice. Make sense?
Just a reminder, you can post the questions on the Slido that's put up on the screen. And you can also like the questions, and then they go to the top and we could ask them. But next question, I don't really like to talk about my feelings, even amongst friends. I'm not 100% sure why. How can I work on this so I don't cause an issue with my future significant other?
My future significant other? Practice, 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 practice. I don't know. That's tough one. I also don't like to talk about my feelings, okay? But, so, like, I'm one of those people that also, I don't like this feelingsy business, like, that ain't for me. Too much drama, that ain't for me, okay? But in a marriage, okay, path to salvation, denial of the self, prioritizing spouse ahead of yourself, okay? I hear you. I hear that it makes you uncomfortable. But your focus is not on yourself. Your focus is sacrificial love. Your focus is the other person. So hear you, okay, that it makes you uncomfortable, but you gotta rally, friend. That's the strength training. That's the spiritual discipline. That's why it's hard. You know when people say, oh, marriage is hard work, relationships are hard work? They're not hard work because you're having a blow up, okay? They're hard work because it's hard to learn how to deprioritize yourself. It's hard. That's the hard. The hard is not fighting. The hard is learning and practicing how to put yourself and your needs below somebody else. That's the hard part. So yeah, it's uncomfortable. Practice, friend. I don't know if you guys have something to add.
How do we know if a recurring fight is a deal breaker if it is only diagnosed during the relationship and that it means to part ways with the other person?
Sorry, say it one more time.
Good. How do we know if a recurring fight is a deal breaker if it's only diagnosed during the relationship and that it means to part ways with the other person?
Okay, I think I understand the first part of the question, which is how do you know if a recurring fight is a deal breaker? I don't fully understand the second part of the situation.
Like,
so.
should it cause to part ways with the other person?
Oh, like when do you call it?
Yeah.
Because the fight keeps recurring, okay? So, like I said, I'm not worried about the volume of fights. I'm worried about what happens after the fight, okay? Are you on more stable ground or less stable ground? Do you have better insight and understanding of this person? Or are you like lost in the sauce? You have no idea what's going on here. Okay? That's the litmus test for what's a deal breaker. If you're fighting productively, if you're fighting like to the point that it's a path to peace and reconciliation. No reconciliation, red flag. Okay? No insight, no understanding, red flag. Okay? I would say for me, those are the two red flags. Reconciliation and understanding. If your conflicts don't result in one of those two things, not resolution necessarily, reconciliation. No reconciliation, no understanding, that's a red flag.
How can we know the why without our partner's attempt to help us understand them better? It's often hard when we're being attacked.
Totally agree. It's hard, friends. And this is why they say that relationships are hard. Totally agree, 100%. But that's why we talk about step 2, is that you're listening for emotion and hurt. They've come at you with a conflict, okay? They are trying to show you, in whatever way it is, why they are hurt, okay? It is hard to look past the attacks on you and to listen for the emotional hurt. It is hard. But that's the path that we're called to walk. That's the denial of the self. All right, we're calling it.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Round of applause, please. Amazing. It's amazing that was the first time she gave that talk. It just felt like it was coming off out of the heart. So we're going to have some time before there's a talk for parents at 7:30. You may want to get out of here by then. Kidding. And if you guys want to run out and get food, you can. I don't know, what else am I supposed to announce? Oh, you sent me a thing. All right. I'm doing a great job here. Okay, so, yes. For those of you who are engaged or know someone who's engaged on November 2nd, please hold. It's coming. It's right here. It's right here. You know when someone's just not prepared? Here we go. On November 2nd at St. Paul's, we have COPE, which is Coptic Orthodox Premarital Encounter. So if you are engaged or know someone who's engaged or would like to be engaged, you're not going to meet anyone at COPE. So if that's what you're going for, they're already taken. Everyone there is taken. November 2nd, At St. Paul's, there'll be a flyer out, but please let people know it's a premarital day where we have a lot of really amazing guest speakers. They're going to talk through a bunch of stuff, so I highly recommend you do that. And please, again, if you haven't heard us already, follow us on Instagram, RediscoverIAM. What else was there? Oh, and we have stickers. If you don't have any stickers, if you didn't get some stickers, grab some stickers. They're really cool stickers. Anything else? That's all. Abuna texted me all these things, and I can't even bring it up. Okay. Are you good, Mary? Okay. All right. Thank you guys very much. I'd like to just, again, another round of applause for Sarah. She gave so many amazing talks. Her work is not done yet. If you have any parents that you would like to come to the talk tonight, please let them know to come tonight at 7:30. Hopefully she will debunk some cultural things and just take some bullets for the rest of us. And then at St. Justina's tomorrow night at 7:30 p.m., she's giving another talk to servants on how to deal with these kind of issues. So if you know people out in the IE, it's really far away, but there are people out there. Let them know, encourage people to come, maybe post it on your chats and all the things that you guys do. Anything else? No? All right. Thank you guys very much. See you later. Catch you at the next thing.
If you guys want to keep sending the questions, Sarah told me to announce this, that she wants to review the questions to help focus the next series. So please keep sending the questions. Thank you.
Is that what it
next after. You don't want to hyper-focus.